This is the Upstate Hoops Podcast. Recorded live in the studios of FingerLakes1.com. Let's tip it off. Welcome, Finger Lakes basketball fans, to a special postseason edition of the Upstate Hoops Podcast. It's Thursday, March 7th, 2013, and this is episode 18 of Season 2. And we're coming at you live from the FingerLakes1.com studios in downtown Seneca Falls, New York. I'm Jim Sinacropi, and as usual, I'm joined tonight by my co-host, a man who scored 38 points for Mynderse the last time they faced Lyons in 1992 in the Class C state qualifier, Matt Verke.
What's going on, Jim?
Big show tonight, Verk. What a week for Wayne Finger Lakes basketball, specifically in Class C, where Lyons, Clyde-Savannah, and Mynderse swept the three divisions and brought home sectional titles from the Blue Cross Arena on Saturday. Newark falls in the Class B1 championship game to Batavia on Sunday, and the Waterloo girls varsity basketball team continues to roll behind Deming and Johnson. Lindsey Johnson scores her 1,000th point. And then a dream scenario this week for fans of basketball in this area with Clyde, Mynderse, and Lyons, paired up to play a mini tournament for the Class C state qualifier. And it was unbelievable. They were in Waterloo on Monday night, and then Mynderse, Lyons back in the big house last night on Wednesday. So probably one of the best weeks of Finger Lakes area high school basketball in the last 20 years.
It was great. The atmosphere Monday night at Waterloo was, was one of the better ones that I've seen in a long time. It's the first time I've ever really seen that gym packed like that, and then it was a fun game to watch. And both the Clyde traveled really well. I think their whole town was there, and Mynderse brought a nice crowd, and it was a good game.
So we have head coach of the Class C2 sectional champions, Lyons, here in studio to help us recap it all. We're kind of going to go through it chronologically, start with Saturday's games, and then work right up to last night's Class C state qualifier. So the Upstate Hoops Podcast is brought to you by Mynderse and Ricky, your hometown personal injury attorneys. If you've been injured and deserve compensation, call the Finger Lakes Personal Injury Hotline at 315-568-0911. And also by Generations Bank. Generations of service for over 140 years. Visit them online at mygenbank.com and check out their new mobile banking app in the iPhone or Android app stores. In Newark Pilots Baseball, a season ticket package is now available for the 2013 season at beautiful Colburn Park, just around the corner here. And visit newarkpilots.com for more information. So, I'd like to welcome back Zac Young to the studio, head coach of the sectional champion Lyons. How's that feel to hear that?
Good.
That's what I want to ask you right off the bat, Zac, is this is your fourth year. Lyons is a big traditional basketball power, a lot of history there. It's got to feel good to win a sectional championship and contribute to that history. And it's, I don't know if it's a monkey, if you'd call it a monkey after only 3 or 4 years on the job, but it's nice to bring home a sectional championship for sure.
Yeah, that was probably our main goal for the year, was to try and get there. And after last year being so close, losing by 3 in a game that probably could have went either way to Cuba Rushford, that was in the back of our minds pretty much all year. So yeah, it felt good. And it's like some of the kids I've had since their freshman year, and we just kind of progressed one further step each year. We lost in the quarters and the semis and lost in the finals, and
that's Devin Veter's career right there.
Yeah. Devin's been with me all 4 years, so it was a nice moment for all the kids and myself as well, and the coaching staff.
Yeah, and congratulations. It was a fantastic coaching job that you did this year. You had some off-the-court stuff that you had to deal with where some players might not have been playing. You had an addition to the roster late in the year. And, overall, I think that by the crunch time, this time of year, once February rolled around, you had everybody buying in, especially Trey Johnson seemed particularly, focused throughout the postseason, and he played pretty well. Letting Damon Hunter kind of, do his thing. It came together great, and we thought Class C, Verk, didn't we think Class C2 is the toughest to win, when we were talking about this a month ago.
Yeah, just based on records in the class, especially when, we're talking about Mynderse, Lyons, and Clyde kind of, coming out of those three classes. And, in C2, there's a lot of teams with good records, 15-5 and, throughout. And, they played tough teams from the quarters on up, and they were able to prevail through that. And, Mynderse kind of, I don't know if they caught a break with Batavia Notre Dame losing to Avon. And, they were able to, Mynderse able to take home that championship, obviously. But, that C2 was definitely a tough division this year. And, I was glad to see Lions pull through there.
Zach, tell me about Damon Hunter. I mean, whenever a kid comes up, he's a sophomore, and he hits 18 first-half points in the sectional championship game, it's like, wow. He played well when we saw you guys in Clyde when you claimed a share of the Wayne County League title that night. But, that first half was really awesome with Hunter.
Yeah, it was pretty spectacular. I was talking, I think, with Matt's dad. I said, it's going to be another trivia question. I'm the only sectional MVP to play half his games on JV. He's a confident kid, and he, like I said, he wasn't scared of the moment, and he put on a show there in the first half of the Blue Cross versus York, and it was quite a performance. And even in our semifinal game versus Perry, he started out a little shaky. He missed his first couple shots. And Perry has a lot of students that are there that are really in your face and all over you. And it seems that once he hits his first shot, he kind of calms down and he gets into game mode. And luckily he made his first shot there in the Blue Cross. And for a sophomore, it was pretty spectacular. Yeah.
Was that something? So we started off on JV. I mean, did you think he was that kind of player, or was it kind of surprise? I mean, obviously you didn't think he was going to score 18 in the first half in the sectional finals, but. I mean, was that surprising or?
Yeah, I thought he was a varsity caliber player, but he was a new kid to the school, and he transferred in, and I just wanted to make sure that he was comfortable, and why not? If he was kind of unsure to come up, okay, we'll let you play JV and see how you did. And I just thought, after we lost to Clyde the first time at home. I thought he could have been a difference maker in the game, and I said, I got a difference maker playing JV. So right. I kind of went after him again, and after talking a bit with his family and him, I let's just give it a shot and see how it goes. And it's only a month, and it definitely worked out.
Yeah, and it's fun for us too covering the leagues because he's a sophomore. So we got 2 more years, of seeing him develop, and if we can speculate about how great he could be as a senior.
Yeah, and I think with Damon it was hard because, like you said, we had some kids in and out, and it almost seemed like we kind of had to change what we did almost every other week, somewhat defensively and offensively. So I really don't think he had a full grasp of everything we were doing. I mean, he picked stuff up pretty quick, but. We kind of had to do a lot of it on the fly until sectionals, and I think just having that extra week before sectionals kind of helped him get a little bit more into the flow as well. But, he's had some impressive games, no doubt about it.
And, of course, we're talking about the Section 5 Class C2 championship game on Saturday at the Blue Cross Arena, which Lions defeated York 64-42. And, Damon Hunter, sophomore point guard, 21 points. 8 of 14 shooting, 4 of 6 from 3, 18 in the first quarter. And then, as I mentioned too, Trey Johnson, I thought was a difference maker for you as well with his play. He just seemed to be more consistent the past couple weeks and more focused and playing smarter. A lot of times we've seen Trey over the last couple of years, he can get a little out of control. He likes to would grab a rebound and maybe, head up court dribbling and sometimes charge or turnover, but seemed to be a lot more under control in championship game. 18 points and 9 rebounds on 8 of 14 shooting, perfect from the free throw line, and a couple assists.
Yeah, when Trey gets his mid-range game going, he's very tough to guard, and you don't see it every game. But we played at Canada this year one time, and he was unstoppable. He was making his 12, 14-footer, and the game was over at halftime. So when he's making that shot, he's tough, and he made his first couple versus York, and it was pretty much on from then. He, kind of feeds into his confidence, and it was nice that we got that cushion. I think playing there last year for him helped, and that's the most that finals game is the most focused I've ever seen him before a game and during the game. You know, he really wanted to get that sectional title.
And he did. I mean, he was big in that game as well, as big as Hunter. I think Hunter got the show going, but Trey Johnson kind of kept it going throughout the.
Yeah, we were worried about getting out rebounded in that game, and we ended up, out rebounding York by 12.
Tony Franklin, 12 of them.
Tony Franklin had 12, and Trey had a bunch, and DJ had a couple, and the Keogh boy. I mean, we controlled the backboard. So, York really, I think they only had 2 points off of offensive rebounds, which when they played Cal Baum, they had about 12 in the first quarter. So,
yeah, I thought your speed obviously bothered them. I thought even rebounding wise, you guys were just quicker to the ball. And at 1 through 5, you guys had the advantage, and again, you guys played a great defensive game. And, when you're hitting your shots, got out to the big lead. It was kind of an uneventful day.
We thought that was
1, 2, and 3 all kind of.
That's how you like it when you're on the winning side.
No,
it is great for us because we speculated throughout the week if Mynderse won and if Lyons won and Clyde won, this would happen. And we're like, holy cow, that could. Then we're like, well, I like Clyde's matchup against Kendall, and I kind of like Mynderse. That York game might be tough for Lyons, so we show up. We're thinking this is going to be the game that's going to be the pressure cooker, and 21-8, you outscore them in the first quarter, and it really was never a game.
Yeah, I think a lot of people thought that was going to be the game of the day in C2. I was pretty confident that Clyde was going to take care of Kendall pretty easily, just based on. I know that the semifinal game was a very close game, but Wheatland Chili beat Kendall by 32 the week last week of the regular season, and I thought Mynderse matched up pretty well with Avon, and with York, it's tough to tell sometimes when you watch teams on film, and I've seen them live, and Cal Mum's a pretty athletic team, the team that they beat in the semis, and it was a great game, and like I said, our defense was really all year has been pretty consistent. I don't think a lot of teams have gotten to the high 50s even versus us, with the exception of Newark, and it was. But when our offense is going, like it was that game, I mean, I don't think we can play any better than we played in the finals, which is
it was fun to watch.
Which is a nice time to hit your peak.
That's right.
For sure.
I heard you on the Bren Zone last week on WGVA and Brendan Harrington's Sunday morning radio show, and you mentioned that Newark game was a turning point because sometimes you're able to handle the competition in league this year, and then you get a false sense of confidence, I suppose, that you can do anything and get a win. And then you go into Newark, a bigger school from the Finger Lakes East, and that wasn't a good game for you. And it kind of woke the guys up to say, hey, geez, maybe we're not as good as we think we are. Maybe we should listen to Coach.
I mean, that's why I scheduled it personally. Is just when we were doing the off-season stuff, I didn't think that Canale was going to be at Clyde either. I mean, that all happened really late, and I just wanted to make sure, not necessarily that we couldn't go undefeated, but I wanted to have a game that was going to be a true test, and playing at Newark was a true test, and we didn't play very well offensively that game, and they were kind of quite honestly they were playing really, really well then, and we had a good record, but as far as competition-wise, it was good for us. And there's nothing wrong with challenging yourself before you go into sectionals, and that was the reason that we scheduled it.
No, yeah, I mean, I think that holds true. You look throughout the league, Mynderse.
I mean, it cost us a 1 seed, but I would been the 1 seed before. It's not really.
Yeah,
it's nice. It's nice dinner, but I mean, you'd rather win the title at the end. And
I think the kids want to play those games. Just
I would think so.
I think it was a fun thing to do, and especially with teams like that. But
the thing about that game, Verk, just looking back at it, is that Don Oakleaf, who played with Jim Boeheim, and when Lyons used to play Newark, watched the game, watched the webcast, and had an interest in it. And I don't know what Jim Boeheim was doing, but I bet you that even caught Jim Boeheim's eye. Oh, the Lyons is playing Newark.
Maybe, but it also was a Wayne was ER a little bit this year. It wasn't the typical Wayne County league, so I think to go out and play that. And, just like with the Mynderse boys, they finished third in the league and got beat up by Geneva and Wayne a couple times. I mean, pretty bad, losses where we haven't seen a Mynderse team get beat like that in 4 or 5 years, and they really got it handed to them. But, I think obviously now in the long run, they're battle-tested, and they're not going to face, throughout states maybe a team as good as Geneva in Class C. So, I think that only helps. Just like with the Mynderse girls, they go 4-14 and then they win 4 games in a row to win the sectionals. The Finger Lakes boys and girls was strong this year, and getting out and playing good teams.
Yeah, 4th place in the Finger Lakes East, or 3rd place in the Finger Lakes East this year is nothing to shake a stick at. So,
no, definitely not.
With the Geneva and Wayne teams, but so let's talk about the Clyde game, the Clyde championship game. It was the first game of the day, 11 a.m. They crushed Kendall 72-28. And I don't know, you were getting there at the end of that. Me and our producer, Hunt Dog, were there bright and early up in section 222 or wherever we were. And, that game started, and we saw a Clyde team that we speculated about the potential, how good they could be, but we haven't really seen it in the times we've seen Clyde. They were unbelievable. I mean, Jermaine Bogan was dominant that game. And
he had a nice run. He had a nice game versus Mynderse too, I thought, as well. But he was all over the place.
Yeah, and we kind of it's funny, like you talk about, you see it a lot with NCAA basketball where a team in the second round squeaks by and then they just go on to win the championship or something. And Clyde kind of, let's face it, they got lucky to win the Chi-Li game. Down 7 with 1:10 to go.
Yep.
And then just came out and just really put it to Kendall. They were challenging for. I haven't checked the records, but that's probably close to a record beatdown for a finals game, I would think.
That's the thing. It's a finals game. It's not like,
Yeah, they won by 54
this Kendall
points.
team won 3 games to get there.
Yeah. So, just Bogan, 22 points, 12 rebounds, and that was another game where Canale really didn't play much. He was kind of on the after the first quarter, I don't think he played at all. And just shows you, how good Clyde is.
He's got a 1,000-point scorer that's not playing He's injured, and you win 72-28 in a sectional final game for sure. I was really impressed with the play of Patrick Harper too. Just pretty solid. I just wanted to make a note of it. He was good with the ball. He made a couple key baskets early on in the stretch to get him going. And but it was Jermaine Bogan showing Cam DeSanto. Him and DeSanto down low blocking shots are unbelievable. Daniel Fanil, is he a junior?
Yeah.
Yeah, because I tell you what, he started to catch my eye with his play in the tournament.
Harper's a senior. He's had a good career for them, but they have those 3 coming back. I mean, Bogan's, DeSanto, and I don't know how you say his last name.
Fanil, yeah.
He's a phenomenal wide receiver.
Yeah, that's what I heard, and I thought Fanil played pretty good against Mynderse too, because I remember seeing him last year when he came up as a sophomore against you guys. He was a little shaky, and he was knocking down threes against Mynderse, and he's going to be a legit guard in that league for the next couple of years.
He played very well in our game at Lyons. He didn't have as good of a game at Clyde, but he played very well at Lyons. He was a difference maker in our game at home.
But you're right; those guys coming back with coming off a Section 5 Class C3 title, Bogan, DeSanto, and Fanil. That's a nice threesome coming back. Even though you lose Canale, you lose Patrick Harper. But I really think, I think Cam DeSanto's got to be a preseason Player of the Year candidate for going into next year in Wayne Finger Lakes.
He won Player of the Year this year.
In the Wayne County League, and. He's added a lot of bulk too since we first saw him last year.
Yeah, I think
tight end on the football team, right? Is that right?
Yeah.
I think all 3 of those teams who won. Zach's got some good, nice kids coming back with Hunter, and DJ's back, right? And
Damian Scott's back. Our JV team had a nice year too.
And we didn't even talk about DJ Long.
Mynderse got kids. Ruddy back. There's some studs coming back for all these teams.
It's going to be exciting. And GJ Long, just getting back to Lyons real quick, because I can't believe we haven't even mentioned him. He's like the glue guy, isn't he?
Yeah, he does. He's long, and DJ Long, obviously, he's long.
Froze. Go to commercial.
Oh, well, we're going to take a quick break while we figure out some technical issues, I suppose, and we'll be right back on the Upstate Hoops podcast. Attention, Finger Lakes residents. Have you been injured and deserve compensation? Call Mynderse and Ricky, your hometown personal injury attorneys. Your case deserves personal attention. At Mynderse and Ricky, they know you by name, not just a number on a folder. Call the Finger Lakes Personal Injury Hotline at 315-568-0911. That's 315-568-0911. Mynderse and Ricky, your hometown personal injury attorneys.
The Newark Pilots. See tomorrow's Major League stars today. For more information, go to newarkpilots.com.
The most valuable things are always passed down from generation to generation. It's true for your family, and it's true for our bank. For more than 140 years at Generations Bank, we've greeted you by name, planned with you for the future, and stood by you when you needed a hand. It's what we do, and what we'll continue to do for generations into the future. We might look different now, but in the important ways, we're exactly like we've always been. Stop in your local branch or go to mygenbank.com.
So many sights to see on the internet, but for everything local, there's no place you can get it. At fingerlakes1.com. Come on over to fingerlakes1.com. Like us your homepage. News, weather, sports, and fun. Log on to fingerlakes1.
www.fingerlakes1.com.
And welcome back to the Upstate Hoops Podcast. All is well for now. Excuse me. How about Mynderse, Verk? Section 5, Class C1 champs, last 3 or 4 years. They roll over Avon, 65-45 on Saturday. Brandon Pasalacqua has been really impressive throughout this run. And, Jimmy Ricky, I had a nice game to get him going as well, 3 of 7 from 3. Jason Anderson playing well, hit a big shot last night that we'll talk about later. And Luke Ruddy, 18 points, 5 rebounds. Connor Miller, 8 points, 11 rebounds. It seems like if they're doubling up Ruddy, that there's more people to do the damage. And this Mynderse team that was looking a little down heading into February with those league losses.
Yeah, it was. I thought Mynderse, especially if I didn't know much about Batavia Notre Dame, I knew they had a undefeated record. Once they lost, I thought Mynderse would win this game. Especially when you see 4 guys in double figures. Connor Miller had 8. When they get guys besides Ricky Pasalacqua and Ruddy scoring, Anderson I think has been really the key for them lately. He's got his game really under control, and he's been playing well down the stretch here, coming into last night's game, and Mynderse was just a better team. I think they beat Avon 10 out of 10 times, and they came out and really they kind of were businesslike, and they've been there before. They beat Avon back when Brandon was a freshman. I'm sure the Avon fans probably feel that Brandon's been there for 13 or 14 years. You see a kid as a freshman, they beat you, and then they're back 3 years later, and he's a senior. So a great game. Brandon took home the MVP honors, which was the second time he was MVP in the sectionals. And, Mynderse rolled along right in that game. Yeah,
and like I mentioned, 3 of the last 4 years, Mynderse wins Class C1, which, like Clyde, wasn't that difficult this year, it seemed like.
No,
but
one of their titles was in B2. They won the Bs 2 years ago. 3 years ago now, I guess it would be. But, Mynderse is good. They're talented. They got senior leadership. Ruddy's he's a horse in the middle, and I think Avon is probably better than they played in that game, and but I think
Coach Fields said that they just got it going.
Our guards really bothered their guards, and they turned it over. We got a lot of points off turnovers, and when they we're 6'5", 6'4" inside, and when Avon did get to the hole, we were there to block the shots.
Section 5 is a big section, and in all Class C, Wayne Finger Lakes teams rule it. I mean, we blew them out in the finals. And that's one thing that makes you feel pretty good, because we like to think that there's special basketball in Wayne Finger Lakes, and this, at least in Class C's, kind of proved it.
Yeah, traditionally it always has been. You got you got Lyons in Newark, who since '75 have won the most. I don't know, Batavia Notre Dame's up there now, but 2 traditional teams that win a lot of sectionals. Clyde, you can throw Mynderse in there. Mynderse now has 8 sectional titles. I think Clyde's got 8. Lyons got 15 or 16 now.
16. Yeah.
16.
14. I think it's 14 since the open era.
Since the open era. But, if you look at the, sectional titles by leagues, Wayne Finger Lakes has the most. I think they include Wayne in that stat in the sectional.
They do, yeah.
But it's a great basketball league. It's not like Monroe County or anything, but it's for the outlying territories outside the city. It's the best going.
Also helps in our classes for the most part. I know Batavia, Notre Dame was up, but they're traditionally a D school. We don't have to deal with the Aquinas of the world, and it used to be Class B for a long time. I'm sure if you ask Coach Pizzato, he lost to Bishop Kearney several times.
Mynderse did too.
And it's this year. I was talking with Eddie Orman, the York coach, before, and he said, at least whoever wins it's going to be a true public school, and we don't have to worry about any private in here kind of taking a piece of a title home. Which if you go up on Saturday, it's Aquinas and Bishop Kearney are playing in the qualifier. So even if I'm from Buffalo, University Prep is a little different story, but at least they're all 8th, 9th, and 10th graders.
Yeah,
it's kind of a crazy story, to be honest with you. But,
it's the age-old debate that there's nothing that can be done about it. At least I'm glad.
But if you're Geneva,
I just think Aquinas, those schools should be AA. Just because hey, we lost a couple starters. They lost a lot, but basically Aquinas is given these schools are given the opportunity to compete for the championship every year, because when they're down, they move down in classification.
Yeah.
And like we said, the Mynderse boys lost back-to-back. We could have 2 more sectional titles. We lost to Bishop Kearney 2 years in a row in 07 and 08 when we had very good teams that take Kearney out of there. We bring home a sectional title.
I think Kearney went to the state finals one of those years.
Yeah, and Mynderse could have beat them one year. And you feel bad for those kids. That that Mynderse team might have been just as good as this Mynderse team, but we had, if this Mynderse team played Bishop Kearney, they'd lose by 40. Yeah. It's, so sometimes it's a little bit of luck and who's in there. And, I remember when I was a junior, we played Livonia, who it was the first time they'd been Class C in 20 years. They'd won Class B forever, and we had unfortunately we played Livonia. If Livonia wasn't there, we would have went to Glens Falls probably. Livonia went on to win. They lost in the state finals that year.
Well, if you look at the classifications, Mynderse is 303 and the cut is 305. So right. It's.
So if they're up, maybe Lyons would could be going to Glens Falls. Yep. If by 10 kids, we had 10 more kids in the community, and it's sometimes it's luck where you fall.
I should have moved to Seneca Falls and then been in Class B.
That's right. One more population, or your whole household would have counted.
That's right.
So there you go. That could be a sneaky move. So. Speaking of Wayne Finger Lakes, on Sunday, Newark played Batavia. And, going to that, we're thinking, wow, can you imagine if Newark got added to this mix? Not that they would be played because they're they're in Class B1, but.
I think that, looking at that, I think that was, you could see that matchup coming, in December. There are only 2 schools with winning records in that class. And, they both rolled in the semis. They both won by 40 or 50 points in their semifinal matchup. And I didn't know a whole lot about Batavia, but after seeing them, they're very good. And they moved on and they beat Hornell the other night in a pretty good game. But Batavia's tough. Newark, no shame for Newark. They really got off. They're down 10-0. They never really recovered. I don't think they played one of their better games, but Batavia I think was the better team in that game. And
well, you could look at them. That was an eye test thing. Those players for Batavia are big.
Yeah, they got some grown men on their team, and like I said, I don't think Newark got off to the best start, and they, it's hard to play catch up the whole game, and but Newark still had a pretty good year, and they got a lot of kids coming back, and they might be the favorite next year in the Finger Lakes to win the league title.
Yeah, lose Anthony Lombardi, great senior year, scored 30 against Mynderse, and they got Micah Wright coming back.
Derek Morris,
sophomore.
Collins.
Yeah, pretty much everybody but Lombardi and Stone.
Yeah,
are back.
they're going to be good.
Yeah,
pretty good JV team.
Yep.
So
Tyler Collins is another guy that came on late.
Yeah, he was a sophomore. So
2 sophomores, Rosser and Collins, and Micah. So they'll be juniors next year. Micah Wright will be a senior, and good teams don't rebuild, Verk. They reload.
That's right.
Okay, well, let's move ahead to the Class C state qualifier. Mynderse plays Clyde in Waterloo, and the winner plays Lyons in the Blue Cross Arena. I mean, what's going on? All year we talked about what would happen if Mynderse played Clyde, or is the Finger Lakes East better than Wayne County? Like, could Mynderse at fourth place,
third place?
Where do they stack up?
Right.
Third place stack up, or Newark stack up? We got to see some of that, but now we get to see it like in the biggest of all stages, in the interest of all the communities here in this triangle of Lyons, Clyde, and Seneca Falls. We're really into it. And before we go further, the first question everybody seems to ask is, how come Lyons gets the bye? Sectional points. You had more.
It's your sectional point index average.
It was very close.
Which we were like 4.02, and Clyde was like 4 even. So that was nice. That was nice. We got the bye, but that's what it comes down to. They actually had more sectional points, but because we only had the 17 games, our average was higher. So of course some people were like, "Oh yeah, you forfeited the Wellsville game on purpose to not play that game," which was not really true at all. But there was a huge snowstorm that that happened that night.
Right, and I was talking about last night. Not that obviously you want the bye, but would you have rather been Mynderse having won that game, coming in playing last night, or had that bye and been rested?
The bye. I think that Mynderse was a little fatigued last night. I thought, personally, from seeing them play, I thought they were a little
3
fatigued.
games in 6 days.
It's tough. And even for us, that additional day when we had Monday, the game was Monday night. So what are you going to do? So I just told the kids we're going to prepare like it's Mynderse. If it's Clyde, we pretty much know what we're going to do.
Right.
And that additional day helped us, I think, a little bit
more
in preparation.
Time to prepare for Mynderse.
Yeah, instead of trying to put, it's hard with anybody. I don't care what level, but with high school kids. I saw a quote from John Beeline. I was just during the season, and it kind of made me rethink a little bit how I do my practices. Is that you can work on many things, but not all on the same day. And I thought like sometimes you're trying to do your offense, your defense, so just kind of so Monday we focused a little bit on what Mynderse did, and then Tuesday what we wanted to do if we played Mynderse, and that extra day I think helped us to prep.
Definitely. But that Mynderse Clyde, great atmosphere in Waterloo.
Unbelievable.
And we talked about a little bit earlier. Just it was a great high school game, 3-point game at half, where Bogans hit a 3 at the buzzer, pretty much to cut a 6-point Mynderse lead down to 3, and made the Mynderse fans
it was
a little
intense.
bit nervous.
I mean, both teams were pressing each other. The gym, there was 1,500 people in the gym, every seat filled. People spilling out around the baselines, and it's a big gym. It's not. I don't think it's ever been filled to capacity like that. And people started arriving an hour before tip, and there's no JV game.
Yeah, no, I got there at 6:30, and I was like, "Whoa!"
Yeah, you had waited in line, right?
The whole Clyde side, Clyde must have got there right at 6. Like,
yeah, they
the
may
whole
have gotten
Clyde
there at 2:30,
which was pretty cool.
And Clyde was wearing the gold roads, and Mynderse was in the home whites, and at Waterloo, it was pretty epic. As epic, I think, as you can get a high school basketball game around here, and definitely the biggest high school basketball game played in northern Seneca County.
It was.
As long as I can remember.
It was great. It was intense, and I think Brandon was really the difference in that game. He
fantastic.
The assists and the points, and Mynderse started off a little bit slow, and then kind of came on, and really in the second half it wasn't like they went on a huge run, but they kind of methodically pulled away, and their defense was outstanding. I thought the Clyde's bigs really bothered our bigs inside. They had I think they probably blocked, double figures, had double figures and blocked shots in that game. Clyde did with Bogans and DeSanto were really all over the place early on. And, I thought Clyde kind of left Jimmy Ricky open a few too many times. He had a lot of space. Clyde played some zone, and Ricky knocked down some shots, and Anderson had a pretty good game for. And
don't forget, Coach Mike Fields had something percolating on the bench.
That's right.
In the form of Jared Coffey, who scored 6 straight points in this third quarter when Mynderse really. And we hadn't seen much of Coffey this year at all. He may be a little spot duty here or there, but he was key there, and he was.
He was, and we saw him in the in the Avon game, but he fouled out in 6 minutes of game time, and he kind of came in against Clyde, and I think Connor was struggling getting a shot off a little bit. He's kind of got a little bit more methodical shot, and Coffey just caught it and went right up with it, and he scored three buckets in a row. He played some good defense. I think he really, he did. He gave him a great spark off the bench, which, Mynderse really needs something off the bench because, Kerr can come in and knock down a three here and there, but they don't have a lot off the bench. So, if Coffey can give him 6-8 points, it's a bonus.
On the way to the game with producer Hunt Dog over there, Jeremy Hunt, we're talking about it. I'm like, what's going to happen tonight? What do you we're like, I think Clyde. We just saw Clyde roll over Kendall. Not that Mynderse had much trouble with Avon, but Clyde was very, very impressive in that game against Kendall. And you start thinking about their size inside, and so then the question comes, can the guards handle Ricky and Passalacqua? And I think at the end of the day, the answer was no, because Passalacqua was getting in the lane and really making some nifty shots in close. And Jimmy Ricky hitting threes. He's probably the best three-point shooter in Wayne Finger Lakes basketball this year.
Yeah, Jim, you leave him open, he's going to make it, a good percentage of the time. And, I thought Clyde did a good thing when, they let Bogans bring the ball up against the Mynderse pressure to kind of relieve, their guards having to bring it up against Ricky and Brandon. But, I was very concerned about who was going to guard Bogans. I think Connor did as best he could against him. Bogan still had a nice game, but I was worried that he could have 25, 30 points instead of the 18.
Yeah,
and
Tom Canale hurt.
Yeah,
so that was a little blow to Clyde. He wasn't very effective. He did a couple things early, but he spent the.
Yeah, I'm not sure. If that was an injury or coach's decision or what exactly was going on there, but he got in there and he scored right away, and then he kind of got a shot blocked a little bit and came back out obviously, and I don't know if they're what exactly was going on there, but obviously not the way he wanted to end his season. But Clyde still
his
had
career.
Yeah, end his career.
Oh, yeah.
Clyde still had a great season, and like we were talking, they got a lot coming back, so the future's bright there still.
You're sitting there on Wednesday going back to the Blue Cross, and you're thinking to yourself, I'm going to either have Mynderse, which is a pretty intriguing matchup right there, or I'm going to have Clyde for a rubber match with a chance to go to states. I don't know what you choose there. It seems like you got a lot more to lose if you play Clyde with that rivalry. That's like the Super Bowl of the rivalry if that was to happen. Did you have a preference?
Well, I knew if we played Clyde, we beat him. So that, and plus the kid, I think the kids wouldn't come out and say it, but the kids wanted to play Clyde.
Yeah,
play Clyde for all the marbles would have been pretty neat. I didn't really have a preference. No, when you go, I just wanted to see how they matched up with each other, and I thought that Clyde would pressure Mynderse, and after watching that, there was pretty much no doubt in my mind that I was not going to try I didn't want to try the same technique that they did, and we kind of wanted to make it more. We wanted to run if we got to stop versus them, but I just didn't think we could win a total up and down game because I just think I had too much respect for Mr. Passalacqua. I just think he's had a great high school career, and he pretty much controlled that second half of that game. So we decided
and they kept pressing. Clyde kept pressing.
That's kind of what they do. It's one of those things. You do what you've been doing all year. I heard. You practice what you're going to play when you get to sectionals, and that's their style. And
yeah, I think Brandon and Jimmy do a good job taking care of the ball, but also, Ruddy can relieve pressure too. He can bring it up, and I thought Mynderse did a good job.
And that was the best game. Bogan, I haven't spent a lot of time watching Mynderse this year, but the Anderson boy I thought was a difference maker in that game. He played very well, and he had a couple great passes, a couple good shots, and I don't know what he had, but
he had 12. And you're right. And coming in the last few games, when he plays under control, he's a great athlete. He's fast. He's a good defender. He can do a lot of different things. He can shoot threes. He can come off the dribble. He's kind of the wild card for him. And when he plays well, Mynderse seems to do really well.
And obviously not afraid to take a big shot, as evidenced by the shot he hit at the end of the game last night and a couple free throws he had 2 at the end. But on Monday night it was 66-50, Mynderse over Clyde, and everybody's heading back up to the big house, right? And last night it was a different type of atmosphere, obviously because the arena is so huge, So it was more of the play on the court was intense, but the atmosphere wasn't as intense. It was more like everybody was just kind of sitting back to see what was going to happen here.
Yeah, and I know there's talk about possibly moving that game to Waterloo. I know the kids typically want to play up at the big house. I don't know. I like the atmosphere in Waterloo the other night.
I think it would have been similar to the Clyde atmosphere if it wasn't Waterloo. It's just the Blue Cross is so big.
Yeah, it's not playing at the Blue. I guess when you're in high school, that's your goal is to go up and play at the big house.
We can't lose either way.
The atmosphere was a lot of fun.
And do you have a preference where you're going to play that game?
I asked my kids on the way home, and they said Blue Cross. So
yeah,
I can't blame them.
Not to mention Mynderse.
Plus the other thing, just thinking about both teams is, we hosted. Mynderse is going to they're the host versus Buffalo, so they got an extra game up there. You would hope that's a little bit of an advantage for Mynderse going against the Buffalo team. So you at least get two games. It's kind of like now it's your home court.
Sure.
So I don't know how much that's going to have to do with the game Saturday, but I hope it gives Mynderse a little bit of an edge over the Buffalo squad.
Yeah, which we'll preview that game real quick at the end. First, let's talk about the game on Wednesday night, last night, the Mynderse Lyons game. Again, we speculate over what's going to happen here. Looking at it, it was seeing how easily Mynderse handled Clyde, who I thought was playing the best they've been playing all year. We were thinking about a 7 or 8 point spread for Mynderse heading into that game. At least I was. I don't know, Verk, if we ever talked about it, but I'm thinking, I think Mynderse is going to handle this game. But I don't want to say I've doubted Lyons all year, but we have a top 5 power rankings. I had them out of there, and I had Clyde in, I had Mynderse in, and I've really gained appreciation for how these kids play together as a team and the way they came together at the end of the year. And that Mynderse Lyons game was a coin toss. That could have gone either way. It was a fight, and it was a good idea to not press Mynderse and turn it into a track meet. And it was an ugly game, but that worked to Lyons' advantage early, and it was an interesting game to watch. I think that the most interesting matchup to me was Ricky on Hunter. I mean, those two are the quickest kids in all of Wayne Finger Lakes. And I thought they did a really good job on each other man-to-man because Jimmy didn't score.
I think he only shot twice.
Yeah, which not even getting the shot off. I mean, and then you start to focus on that matchup, and you see Damon Hunter just everywhere. Even when the ball was being handled by the referee before an inbounds, Hunter is like,
we didn't have. I've seen Jimmy play a couple times, and like you said earlier, if he gets an open shot, he's going to make it more times than he's going to miss, and he's not afraid to shoot from 3 or 4 feet behind the arc either. So we just said, Damon, if you're on him and if somebody else matched up on him, you have no help defense. Just make him put it on the floor, and if he can get to the basket and score, he can. But don't that's only a 2. Don't let him get a 3. So that works pretty well. But his defense definitely bothered us as well.
Yeah, and that's the thing on the reverse side. Ricky on Hunter. Damon didn't have 18 points in the first half of that game, and he got less looks, and he was a little frustrated, I think, because Ricky was so quick.
Yeah, I thought it was a good matchup, and Hunter got off to a little bit of a slow start, but he came out to open the half, and Brandon and Jimmy kind of got caught a little bit. They thought they were going to switch, and they weren't, and then they ended up switching, and Hunter hit the 3. And, like you said, once he hit that 3, I thought he got rolling pretty good. He had a couple other big shots, a couple more in and out right there, and he had a nice the and one pretty late in the game. It's not like Hunter played bad by any means. He really 10. What do you have? 10 in the second half?
Yeah, he had 10 in the second half.
And a couple of those shots, like you said, are in and out, rolling off the rim.
And he's a kid when he was shooting them late in the game. It's just you almost expect him to go in after what he's done, from the Clyde game on, really. And they were right there, and it was a great high school basketball game. I thought last night. I thought Coach Young had a great game plan. You really slowed Mynderse down. I think Mynderse is a team you want to keep in the half court offense. They really they struggle in the half court sometimes. Kind of predictable. They run the dribble weave and try to throw it in the ruddy. Lyons had really good weak side help coming over. And Ruddy, he missed some shots that he usually makes early on. Came up big late. He made all his foul shots. Had a couple nice post
He
moves.
ended up with 15 points, 17 rebounds, which was it was a quiet 15 and 17 if you can have it.
I knew he was killing the boards. I didn't realize he had 15 points because he just seemed so quiet most of the game, and
9 of 10 from the free throw line.
Yeah, but I thought that was obviously Mynderse, one of their biggest advantages was the height inside, and Lyons did a good job of getting their athletes over there on them and double teaming them, making them pass it out.
And I got to point out DJ Long too, because we were talking about him before we had to take that quick commercial break, but he only had 6 points, but all 3 of those were real timely baskets. I think he scored the first basket of the game, which in an atmosphere like that is always a big basket to get on the board. Mynderse certainly had trouble getting points early. And a couple more in close when you seemed like you really needed a basket. And you say he's coming back next year.
He had a pretty good game in the finals for us too. He was guarding the Logston kid from York, who was probably their second leading scorer. And they're very similar type players, and he held them to 1 for 9. And he just affects. He's got a really long wingspan, and he can affect your shot. And I look for him to develop hopefully in the off season and be one of the he had a pretty nice second half of the year for us.
And he was on Canale when you played in Clyde.
Yeah, at times.
Did a good job there too. So definitely.
I thought just looking back at that game last night, really slow start. Low scoring. You guys, I don't think Mynderse scored till into the 4 minutes and 30 seconds to go or so when Miller finally put one in. But Brandon hit some big shots late in that first quarter, and then Mynderse kind of got on a big roll there in the second quarter and went on the 15-6 run. I thought when Coffee came in and hit some big shots there,
start brewing the pot again.
Yeah, and Caraher was in there in that second quarter a little bit. They didn't score a lot in that second quarter, but when those guys,
they went on a 14-0 run. I mean, Devin was kind of our lone offensive threat in the first half, and I think he had to come out for a while, and then he had 2 fouls. He got 2 fouls, and you want to save him, and I ended up putting him back in at the end of the half because I didn't want it to get too far away, and he did. We were up. We should have been down 8 really at half. He made a big shot, and then
that was huge. And then Mynderse fell asleep,
and then Damon comes out and hits the 3. So instead of being down 8, maybe 10, it's a 2-point game.
It was a 6-point swing in game time right there.
Yeah.
I thought Devin got off to a real nice start. He was aggressive getting to the hole and hit a couple threes there, and obviously the big one at the end of I thought that was a huge shot. Going in really with no momentum at all to hitting a bomb at the buzzer was I'm sure a nice way to go in the locker room.
And then Matt Lyons comes out, outscores Mynderse 13-9 in the third quarter, and going into that fourth quarter, it was up for grabs. And coming down to it, I think Mynderse had the ball against full court pressure up 2 with maybe 10 seconds left. Ball was inbounded past Lockwood, right in front of the Lions bench. You were right there, Zach. We were up in section 222, right, Vert?
205, I think.
We were up in 205, and we didn't see a foul. We saw Brandon kind of drop the ball, and then a foul called. You were right there. Was there a foul? Refs are looking to call a foul at that point. So
there was about 15 seconds left when it happened. And, I didn't think. I think they anticipated.
It's an anticipation.
Yeah.
They're
but
coming
a little
over.
bit,
But you had a nice trap in the corner. I mean, ideally, that's what you would like out of your presses.
That's exactly what we said in the timeout.
I wasn't real. I don't know. Mynderse shouldn't inbound the ball to the corner. Obviously, to a 5'7" guard, he's going to get trapped. But you want to get the Brandon. I understand that.
But Brandon actually missed that front end.
Yeah, he missed, and Lyons. At that point, it was a 4-point game. He missed. Lyons came down.
2-point
game.
Trey Johnson got the rebound. Or that was.
That's right. Mynderse. Okay.
We kicked it. We had the good look for 3.
Yeah.
Damian Scott from the corner, wide open.
Yep.
He was contested. I thought they got a little bit of a hand out there, but I was thinking back to 06 there with a Scott. That's my original thought as soon as I saw it leave his hand. His brother hit a game-winning shot for Lions back in 06 when Coach Veter was coaching.
Huh.
But and then all that happened, and but Brandon, he's a kid. We've seen him knock down a lot of big free throws. He missed that one, and
And
you know,
then it
gave
was Trey
Lyons-
Johnson was off to the races. Layup, right-hand layup, maybe a little bump by Connor Miller. I thought it was a good non-call. Ball just rolls off the rim, and that was basically it. Anderson grabbed the ball, knocks down a couple free throws.
Yeah, I think the bigger key I mean, obviously it came down to the end there, but we were up 2 and we missed. We had a 3 go in and out, and they ran.
That was
a
a
little,
Hunter 3, right? Wasn't it?
I want to say Devin from the top took kind of like I can't remember quite off the top of my head, but they came out and it was Ruddy got fouled on that. They did like a little lob play to him. He made the ball, and then the biggest play to me, you know, the only thing looking back on is we had that turnover right there, and then Anderson made the shot. That was a big swing. You know, I thought we did a pretty good job versus their pressure really all night. We only had 11 turnovers, which if you would have told me at the beginning of the game, I would have been ecstatic with.
Yeah, Mynderse had 18.
And
yeah.
Mynderse,
But that was a big one. That was a big one.
you know, I think one thing they don't get credit for is, you know, Mynderse is a good defensive team. You know, they got quick guards or, you know, big down low. You know, between Anderson, Ricky, and Pasalacqua, you know, those kids are all quick and they pressure the ball really well. And, yeah, you guys did do a great job taking care of the ball. And, you know, Anderson kind of, you know, I thought he
stepped up and hit that
yeah,
big
you know, and he kind of struggled. He, you know, I like him just to, you know, he was trying to get an inside and make some passes. He's the type of kid who just needs to play, just go. And he kind of struggled, but he hit, you know, biggest shot of the game to put Mynderse up 2 there after the turnover. So, you know, kudos to him, and he really stepped up and made a nice shot there.
Yeah, I gotta say too, Luke Ruddy's now facing lots of double teams, and sometimes that hurts his numbers a little bit. But maybe the best big man coming back, Wayne Finger Lakes. We talk about DeSanto and Bogans, and of course,
he's
Junior Sims in Geneva.
Yeah, and I think Ruddy was a little fatigued. You know, you kind of talk about that, and you know, Mynderse went to that 1-3-1. They asked, you know, he's on the point, and it kind of brings him far away. And Lyons really attacked the 1-3-1 well, and luckily, you know, thankfully Coach Fields got out of that because you know, Lyons scored some buckets out of that. But Ruddy did look fatigued,
tired but heady. I mean, he's smart.
Oh yeah, no, he's very
he's
smart
under
player.
control. He has legitimate post moves. He can score in transition. He's a good free throw shooter. He can step out and hit a 3. I just really, you know,
he's very fundamentally sound. There's not really anything he can't do, you know. And I know he spends a lot of hours in the gym.
Yeah, you don't see that usually out of high school. Big man. Usually, even you know,
he's pretty polished for a junior.
Right,
you know, he's pretty polished.
And then he's coming back next year. It's could be big things next year. But of course, they've got a game to prepare for Verk on Saturday in the Blue Cross Arena at 2:45 p.m. Silver Creek.
Yeah.
Too bad it wasn't the Seneca Falls versus Silver Creek Canal Cup Ryder Cup style matches, because Seneca Falls is 7-0.
That's right.
But it is Silver Creek out of Section 6, and watching the highlights, they're big.
Yeah, you know, we saw
bigger than us.
Saw a little bit of
Bigger
video
than
on them.
us.
They got a 6'7" kid, and they have. Luckily, we're not playing them lacrosse because they have the #1 lacrosse player in the country. From what I hear, he's going to University of Virginia on full scholarship. But
and he's also the best player on the basketball team.
He seems like it. You know, Zach's seen some tape on him, and
I didn't watch any.
I
I just my.
Did you send anybody to scout him?
But yeah. I had. I mean, it was the night before at 5:30, so I wasn't gonna.
So did he even give you a? Did they give you a report? You even talk about it?
My Steve Veter went and watched the game for me because the game started at 5:30 Tuesday, so we had to practice to go for the Miners game, and he said he thought the winner of our game had a pretty good chance, and for Steve to say that, he's usually always like, oh no, they're great, you know.
Yeah.
So I think Miners has a legitimate shot, a lot better than they had. You know, 2 or 3 years ago when they're playing.
That team, Silver Creek, beat OTC, who
really
handed the Minders.
OTC's, I mean, they've had some good wins this year. So
yeah.
I think I don't want to underestimate Silver Creek at all. I mean, they're 22-0. They beat some good teams. I mean, they beat Portville was like 19-3, and I think they beat them all 3 times.
Right.
So it should be, you know, when you get to that level, you're playing good teams.
You know, I think it's going to be a physical game. Just from watching limited clips of him, you know, they have the big kid inside who, you know, he had a dunk. It wasn't nothing special, but he's big. You know, so obviously Luke's not just gonna dominate down low as he has some games this year. But you know, I think our guards are going to be just as good as they are, and from reading some articles, it seems like they don't have much of a bench. I don't think the coach made a sub to the fourth quarter. I read.
Wow.
But they're going to be physical. So it depends on how the game's going to be called. But
Feels like potluck, we don't know anything about
We'll
Silver
put
Creek.
Steve Veter on record and say
Yeah.
predicting the Minders win here. So we'll go with that, and then on the Glens Falls maybe next Friday.
So at this point with the Upstate Hoops podcast, we're basically going to do our next show after Mynder's last game, whether it's a day or two or a few days. We're going to schedule our last Upstate Hoops podcast of the season after Mynder's last game. So, watch the front page of FingerLakes1.com or subscribe to us on Facebook or Twitter.
I'm calling Coach Fields out. You got to get Coach Fields on the show.
Yeah, and then that's the plan. Actually,
might have to pay him.
We might get more than a handful of Minders folks up here, depending on how it plays out. But, Zach, congratulations on a fantastic season, sectional championship. Got to play that extra game in the big house against Minders. And you and your kids obviously have nothing to be ashamed of. That was a fantastic, hard-fought game. Everybody kind of gave it their all. And, the worst part about seeing Minders advance is seeing, Devin Veter fall out at the end of the game and knowing that we're not going to see him play high school basketball anymore because he was always fun to watch. But at the same time, sophomore Damon Hunter's coming back next year for his junior season, and that's kind of the circle of life in high school basketball. At least we don't got to worry about any of these kids leaving early, like at college. We know they'll be back. Michael Carter-Williams, C.J. Fair, who knows? But we'll actually be talking about that in about 10 minutes if you guys want to hang tight here watching on the live stream. And we'll be back and transition to talk about Syracuse basketball. So once again, Zach, thank you for coming in, and congrats on a great season.
Thanks.
Thanks to Madej, Mynderse, and Ricky, Generations Bank and Newark Pilots Baseball. And thank you for joining us on the Upstate Hoops podcast. For Matt Verke, producer Jeremy Hunt, Zac Young, I'm Jim Sinacropi. We'll see you next time.
www.fingerlakes1.com. Come on and join the fun, log on to Finger Lakes One.
www.fingerlakes1.com.